So we're now going to create a column. I want you on page 16 in your handout, you have the instructions on how to create a column. So it's important that you create 2 columns. In the one, you're going to add marks, but then in the other one, please leave it empty. Okay? We're going to use that in the next activity. So when we are in the full grade center, you will see it there at the top. You have to click on Create Column. So you will see there's 2 fields that you can put in a name. So the first one has got an asterisk. That means it's the compulsory name of the column. So what we often have to help lecturers with, if you provide 2 names there, let's say the one is called ABC 123 and the second one is XYZ 123. And now the students have a complaint and they contact you and they say, I can't see my marks for XYZ 123. Then you go to your grade center list and you look for that XYZ column, but you can't find it, right? Because you actually called it ABC. So that second row can confuse you totally. Please don't include anything there. Only put in the column name at the top. So if it's a class presentation or a class test or whatever additional assessment, something that wasn't created automatically, you can put a name for that in there. Try to make your names a little bit shorter. It shouldn't be this long because your column will not reflect all the text that you have there. And then it can be difficult for you to see which column you need to work with. So I'm going to call this one class test. Although you have a description field here, it doesn't display anywhere. Although if you are more than one lecturer teaching the same course, then it can be very helpful if you just add that description, what are you using this column for, so that someone doesn't unnecessarily just delete your column. If you need to know what is happening with that column, just check. There's no undo button in ClickUp. If you've deleted that column, it's gone. Then we get to the primary and the secondary display. So one of you in the expectation asked, how do I let ClickUp help me to calculate the percentage automatically? So typically what you can do is you can use your primary display as a score and your secondary display as a percentage, right? We can set it up that way so that you can see how this will work. So that you can see ClickUp will work out that percentage for you, but what will be displayed to the students is the primary display, right? So only the point value will then be displayed to the student and not the percentage, but we can see the percentage on the grade center. So my primary display is the score and the secondary display is a percentage. I also just want to explain there's other things that you can add, other types of columns. For example, a letter grade, but we don't use letter grades at the university. Then also a text column. We normally use those text columns. If you, for example, want a place where you can make comments, then you can have a text column. Or we will get to the codes later on. Sometimes you have to capture a 993 or a 979 or something like that. Then for that, you can create a text column and capture that in there. Right. Otherwise, it will skew that column's statistics. And then you also have this complete and incomplete, and that's just a value that you can put in there. So it's not really an assessment. Then we get to the category. Now there's 9 default categories created for us in ClickUp. What you can then do is, if you know this is a test, you can add it to the test category. Then it will automatically group that column with all your other test columns. It will just make your life a bit easier later on. So let's select the test option there. And then we provide the points possible. So for this one, I'm going to use 25 so that you can see what that looks like. And then you will see this is where you can add your rubric to a column. So my example previously where we talked about adding a presentation, class presentation column, then you can add that rubric there as well. So for example, with a class test where they have a written thing, if you, for example, have the luxury of tutors who's going to help you with the grading, and they're doing it online, then you can also add the rubric here and they can only mark the students that you have allocated to them using that rubric. If you are the lecturer, you know when this test is going to take place. But sometimes we have administrative people who assist our lecturers in setting up their grade center environment. And you don't know what that date is for that test, then you can leave it blank. We use that dates later on in one of another functionality where you can set up a grading scheme. It will show you, or grading period. It will show you all the assessments that is in a specific date range that you need to go and assess so that you can plan your time better. And then we have these options at the bottom. First of all, include this column in the grade center calculations. That's by default set to yes. Please don't change it. Otherwise, you might end up looking for a column when you do the calculations later on and you can't find it. So then it's because that thingy was changed to no. So keep it as a yes. Then show this column to students. Then you have to make a decision. Do I want them to see it already, or do I first want to grade everyone's assignments before I make the column visible? That is better practice. And then the last option there is show statistics. So please switch that on. Why do you think that's necessary? You must realize the students won't have that list with everyone's marks anymore. So you're not going to provide them with a PDF with all the marks and they can work out the stats themselves, right? So they will only see their own mark. If we don't switch this on, then they don't have anything to measure themselves against. They might think that they are performing really well and actually they're not doing so well. So please switch that on for your students. When you start adding marks, a few things to remember. ClickUp is not that clever. So even though you gave the points possible, for example, 25, if you type in 50 out of 25, it's not going to stop you. It's going to accept that mark. But your statistics will be skewed. So make sure that you know what your point value is before you start capturing the grades. And then a quick way to jump between the two the fields is if you add your mark there, you enter, it will automatically jump to the next field. This is a good question. If you want to skip one, you just enter again and it will keep those dashes. Do not provide a 0 if you really want to give a 0, right? Because it will calculate that 0 as part of your statistics. So otherwise, it will just skip that student. If you have 20 students in the class, your assignment or the statistics will be worked out of 19 instead of 20. When you are finished with a column, it will automatically jump to the next column. So your columns, those new columns will always be way at the end of your list. We will look at how you can organize your columns a bit later on in one of the activities. So what will happen then, once we've added grades there, you will see in my first column, I added my primary display was my score and the secondary display was the percentage. So what you will see displaying here is the percentage in brackets. So that's my test that I entered the grades correctly. Okay. Otherwise, if you did not include that percentage, then it will not display anything behind that. So we've spoken about the primary and the secondary display. Let's talk about the hide from students and hide from instructor view. So on page 19 in your handouts, if you want to take some notes there as well, you're welcome to do so. It will explain to you where you will find these options. So first of all, you have that hide from students. So that would basically hide the column so that the students won't see it. And the next one is to hide it from your view as an instructor. But be careful with that. If you hide it from your view, but it's not hidden from the students, they can still see it, né? Although you can't see it. So if you, for example, selected that hide from your view and it's now gone, you don't see it anymore, you can make it visible again by going to the Manage option and selecting Column Organization. It will take you to this page where you can then select the columns that needs to be visible again, and you use the Show Hide option at the bottom to make it visible. If you selected the option to hide it from the students, this button there that you see there, the circle with a dash, is your indication that that column is hidden for students. So that would reflect in your full grade center, that circle with a dash in front of the name.